two, one, two,
Welcome to the Clarinet Ninja Podcast. My name is Jay Hassler. As always, I'm doing my best to bring you the finest in clarinet education and entertainment. Playing us in today, as he often does, is Mr. James Standifer. If you like what you hear, check out James's website. I'll leave it in the show notes. I'll leave it in the links. Fantastic. You won't be sorry you did. Today on the podcast, we're talking about something very, very stressful, and that is taking auditions, and specifically taking orchestral auditions and using the orchestral literature to be measured to see if you're going to get a job, to see where you fit in your high school or college orchestra, oftentimes as entrance audition pieces. I've got good news. Someone I know quite well has written a couple of books that deal with the excerpts that we tend to play that are most likely to be asked and how to conceive of them, things to think about musically, things to think about on the clarinet, and some incredible practice ideas for exactly those things. And his name is Dr. Ben Barron, and he is joining me today. We're going to talk about a lot of things, general clarinet, but mostly about audition material, audition preparation, and how to find your very, very best playing when it comes to that moment you're sitting on stage or in the audition room and you're on. How do you get your best playing there? I've got a question for you. What excerpt is most stressful for you? Or which one's your most favorite? What about that process freaks you out or charges you up? While you're thinking about that, leave a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment, like, subscribe, do all of that. If you're listening in podcast world, would you subscribe? Maybe rate us? 5 stars would be nice, because that would really, really help accomplish my goal of getting this out to as many people as can possibly hear it. Last thing, if you're an adult clarinet player and you want to learn the clarinet at a faster rate with a higher rate of success, check out the Clarinet Ninja Dojo. It is there for you. Check out my free refresher course online if you'd like. All sorts of stuff for you. I would love to hear you play the clarinet. I would love to see you in the dojo. With all that said, with no further ado, Mr. Ben Barron. So tell us all about this book.
This book is it's a method book to help someone prepare for an orchestra audition. It's a very direct thesis statement, I suppose. It's not. I mean, it helps with playing in an orchestra. Absolutely, it teaches the broader aspects of the job are touched upon. But the real impetus behind the book is to kind of preemptively answer all the questions we all have walking into auditions, and what's going to work and what's the right interpretation, and how do I build these excerpts to the place of resiliency that they can withstand the audition process and all of that.
For me, when I think about taking an audition, I think about 2 things. How is it that I'm going to play this excerpt? What's my ideal goal? And then how do I achieve that on call in a stressful situation? Right? What's my roadmap? Because if you don't have a clear roadmap, you don't have much at all when you're sitting on stage by yourself. And that's always a frustrating situation.
Right.
And when I look at this book, well, I mean, I want to get more deeply into it, but you give really wonderful insight into the excerpt, what's going on, what you should listen for, what you should think about, what comes before, what comes after, why you should listen to it, why you should know the piece, but specific phrasing ideas, but also ways to practice the excerpts to achieve the desired goal. It's extraordinary in these books. It doesn't just say, hey, here's how it should sound. It's here's how you can get it there. Here's one way that you can get it there. Oftentimes 2 or 3 ways that you can get it there, multiple exercises. Right. And
there are other ways to get it there. The idea being this is one way.
When you were first telling me about the book, however many years ago this was, one of my thoughts was super niche. But when I look at it, it's not that. I mean, it obviously at its core, in its primary purpose, that's kind of what it is. But at the same time, when I look at it, I feel like I'm getting deep, smart, really usable insight into how to problem solve any piece, what to think about when I'm playing any piece. That's something that I think is really hard to put words to. Like going through your books, you've kind of reinvented a lot of ways to communicate things in written music.
Well, I'd be interested to know what specifically you're referencing.
Well, I mean,
But yeah,
there's certain notes that
markings.
had, like in jazz, what would be like a doit after it, which
Hmm.
was talking about a
Right.
way of ending, like not ending a phrase, but putting a break in
A
that's not
lift.
really a breath mark, but it is some sort of
And it's not a
demarcation.
staccato.
Right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right,
It's lifted. Yeah.
right.
And trying to come up with ways of communicating the musical gestures through a non-traditional marking. And some of these markings were what Mark would use when teaching, kind of his own little devices to communicate. And others were generated just out of, we can't come up with a way to notate this. What would be what other means do we have to communicate what we're trying to convey, so to speak? And to your earliest point, it's kind of strikes me. I mean, I use these books when I take an audition. It's which is a funny thing to do, and also the I do notice as time has gone on, and especially since volume two, that whether it's in my own playing or my own practice or the teaching I'm doing, I find myself applying a concept from one excerpt to a solo piece or something completely unrelated. I'll find myself running to the shelf to grab the book to show a student, like, hey, I want you to do this. There's a reference point here in the book that you can use to kind of model the concept and apply it to what you're playing.
Well, and one of the things that I thought was really nice in Brahms 3, one of the actually it was on both the first and second movements.
Hmm.
There's a suggestion to play it on the clarinet that it's not written for.
Right.
And I've done on the first movement, but I've never actually written it out before.
Right.
But man,
Right.
it's much more calming to actually see it written out than to try and like
Right. No matter how many times you practice it, you're on stage, you're in that situation, you're not playing the note you're seeing. And
right.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. The first movement doesn't they don't transcribe, no one writes it out, and you just do it on site, and now you have a part to actually
Well,
use.
I mean, because of the pandemic, I've gotten really good with Sibelius.
Oh,
Prior to the
good for you.
pandemic, I was terrible. Actually I never used it before,
Yeah.
so I could write it out now, I mean, other than by hand, which would be really weird to write it out by hand and take
Yeah,
it. But
especially
anyway,
at this point. Yeah.
but then the second movement, playing that on A clarinet and moving into the E flat, it's a really interesting idea because for me, D is is really a high note
Yeah.
on the fourth line, and it
Yep.
is hard to get that A to D interval exactly right all the time.
And
Uh,
consistently. Yeah.
yeah, and I never thought about playing it on A clarinet. That's a great idea. I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to open a book and have an idea that I've never had before and think, oh my God, nice
Yeah.
one, right? Yeah.
Ah,
So I really appreciated that. It was a nice thing to have that thought because to tell me I have oftentimes messed around with playing like for example playing the first movement of Beethoven 6 on E flat clarinet, obviously not for an audition, but in terms of practicing, because
yeah.
then
Yeah. That's a good idea.
that
Love
high
that.
D is nothing, right? I mean, because I'm not playing the same fingerings, I'm playing the same actual notes, so it's transposed.
Okay.
So that D on the E flat clarinet, whatever note that is
Right.
not a challenge. And it's interesting to practice
Oh,
something when you take the challenge out
right.
and then you get it in your ear as not having that challenge, and then you play it on the B flat clarinet, and just for a minute, it's not the same challenge.
Right.
It all comes back. In your experience, the book and just in general, like how do you feel about that? Do you feel like when you're working on a particular challenge and in excerpts, we come up against the same 25 challenges over and over and over and over again?
Mhm.
Oftentimes, I feel like I'm stuck in a version of myself of when I first encountered that challenge. And it's
Sure.
hard for me to break away from that very antiquated version of myself
For sure.
and actually find my best playing because this challenge has been something that has dogged me for so long. It's in my head and I have a hard time getting out of that. I'm kind of realizing I didn't really send you a list of questions before we talked,
No,
but I'm
no
curious
problem.
to know if you can fix this for me.
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I mean, I think there's a real truth to the fact that we spend our lives undoing some of the early years of playing, whether that's the very beginning parts of getting over the break into the altissimo and what we kind of do to force that sound, and then over time learn how to allow that sound to come out. And I think it's the same with the excerpts, the scherzo, the Beethoven Sixth, the Beethoven Eighth. We get kind of locked into those early years and what we did in the initial learning process. And I think switching to E flat, that's a really great idea. I haven't come across that one before. I'll switch the clarinets A to B flat sometimes. Sometimes playing the excerpt in a different key can free things up a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's a great point, and looking for the creative solutions, which this book does to a certain extent. But there, again, I think the idea of the book leading to more ideas, to more problem solving, is one of the benefits I guess I didn't see up front when we started this project.
Well, I think so many like when I consider a project of this scope, because this is significant. I mean, do you know off the top of your head how many excerpts you cover in this?
I think between the two volumes were maybe 20 to 25 pieces and probably 45 to 60 excerpts,
Right.
maybe. I don't have that yet at my fingertips.
I feel like it would be almost impossible to embark on that journey and to know I
Oh,
obviously
we had
you
no
had an end
idea.
goal, but there's going to
We
be
had no idea.
lots of tangents and
Oh,
routes that you don't know are coming along the
oh,
way.
for sure. I mean, volume one was just kind of like we just kind of worked our way towards the format and the content. There was an intense amount of work put into it. I mean, Mark's dedication to the series, and he was my thesis advisor, so to speak, and the thesis advisor has a certain amount of hours that they're to commit to the project. And I mean, Mark committed 100 hours to the project. I don't
Right.
even know what the exponential over the requirement was, but it was. I mean, and it took 8 years. It was 9 years until publication. I think seven to finish the thesis, which for the doctorate.
It took that long?
Oh, it took a long time. I mean, it wasn't constant work. I mean, I think you're referencing a particular spring in my life where Manhattan School of Music told me I had to finish my thesis by the end of the year. They said my time was up. And the other slightly funny and needling aspect of that too is it took me so long to complete the doctorate that in the meantime they released their dissertation requirement. And this was told to me in the fall. I think it was 2000, probably 2011. I think I finished it in spring of 2012. And again, and I was told that like you don't actually have to do this, but if you are going to do it, it's now. And so I put the clarinet away as much as I ever have and just got to finalizing the book. I mean, a lot of the ideas were on recordings or on sketches, but then actually putting it into something that could qualify as a dissertation and eventually be published was very consuming over a 3 or 4 month span.
Well, yeah, that must have been the time because it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost one of those things where I would think to myself, maybe I should check it with Ben. He hasn't asked me to sub for him tomorrow.
Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, thank you. I forgot tomorrow. Yeah. Weekend got away from me. Yeah.
Um,
It's probably the least amount of practicing I've ever done in a 3 or 4 month stretch.
no,
Was
that was intense, and that checks out in terms of what year it was. Now, in terms of the second book, did you work with Mark on that one as well?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Man,
No.
that was not a part of your dissertation. That was just
No.
yeah.
No, this became a bigger project than just the dissertation. And we'd always planned on doing a volume two. And in the meantime, Mark moved to Houston, which made getting together a little more challenging. We had all these thoughts of doing it, do some here, we'll do some there, go down for a weekend. I mean, not that you can knock this out in a weekend. And this went on for years. Oh, we should do volume two. We should do volume two because the volume one came out in 2014, and there just was no time to do it. And then, the pandemic hits, and all of a sudden, both of us are doing our teaching online, and kind of strikes me that wait a minute, if I'm teaching online, we can probably get together and play excerpts for each other and write this volume. And selfishly, it was a way for me to stay connected to playing through that time, have a standard to I mean, I have my students, I got great students at Montclair State, and I need to show up for them, but it's nothing like a professional orchestra job. And having that, Mark and I met once, twice a week. Sometimes a couple weeks would go by, and I mean, it was great to get to be with him and spend that time during such a difficult stretch, and it was also great for my playing.
When I look at these books and like I'm able to look at them and recognize, man, this is really, really great stuff. I'm able to disassociate the fact that I know you and be able to look at it and say, this is something great. Because when I think about books about like, some of the Bernard books had some idea of here are the excerpts and some small markings on how to play them. Like the Peter Hadcock book has some good ideas about how to play the E-flat clarinet.
Right.
Even like the Leon Rushnoff books that aren't in print anymore had some really good specific ideas. Like, okay, you're playing this phrase, it ends on a C, third space. The next phrase, 2.5 measures of rest later, also starts on a C.
Yeah.
That has to be the same.
It's got to be the
Like
same.
in pitch and potentially at times in volume. Or it has to be intentional. Whatever difference there's going to be, it has to be very intentional.
Quality.
Yeah. All of that. And that's something that is very clearly outlined in your book. And I love that there's the sort of practice part and there's an audition part.
Right.
There's and then there's the actual like reprint of the real part. There's ways to look at it and experience it differently. And
Like that.
also, I think it gives the person looking at it an opportunity to transform themselves so that they're able to see all the good ideas that you're talking about in a part that doesn't actually have those laid out as kindly as you do. I'm curious to know was there an excerpt that you found things that you never thought about before, or which excerpt, when you got done examining it and working with it, did you feel like, oh my God, I got a lot out of that?
Man, that's a very good question. I mean, I think Mendelssohn's Scherzo, I really love that one, the detail of the exercises. And what's funny too is like I'll teach that to my students now, and I'll be like, I had to do all this by ear. You have this written out for you. I mean, Mark would just tell me to displace the eighth note by one beat and have the metronome tick, but we've written it out for you.
That's really genius because it changes where the accent is, which changes your experience of playing it, which differentiates it enough to actually have a different experience. Let me tell you what annoyed me about reading your book is that I saw that and I thought, I do that with so many other pieces. Why did I never do it with that one?
Yeah. Well, even when you said the E-flat clarinet on Beethoven, I was like, why haven't I done that?
Well, but like like as much as I'm really happy to have a new idea, like I'm like, that's not a new idea. I just wasn't creative enough to actually do that. And that's irritating.
Well, yeah.
But live and learn. Like that idea, it was one of the ones that I was like, oh, this is not just a book about playing excerpts and playing them well and being able to reproduce your finest playing. This is, in some way, it's not. I know it's the second or third thing one could get from it, but it's a treatise on how to practice a lot of ways. Which is fantastic. I can't remember off the top of my head like how you suggested practicing the pentatonic scales in Daphnis. Did you have any hints for us on that?
Well, Daphnis was, I mean, it just takes up so many pages, and like the proofreading trauma from that still echoes within me. There are, we've broken down. I'd have to grab my book too, Jay. I haven't looked at the Daphnis excerpt in a while.
Listen, I will only either this will all be cut out, or I'll put the parts where you sound like a genius. Don't worry about it.
No, you can. That's fine. I mean, the opening of Daphnis gets a thorough treatment. There's multiple practice breakdowns of the rhythm. I don't know if we did something specific with the pentatonic aspect, though. That's what I'm not.
Okay.
I don't know if we actually wrote those scales out with that in mind. Another good idea.
When I was looking through all this, I mean, I stopped. My last audition was in 2019.
Okay.
And I knew it was my last audition when I took it.
Okay.
Having a kid,
Yeah.
I just like, I can't.
It's a lot.
I mean, anyone that's taken a professional audition knows how much it takes from you in the process, and how there's some way in which the closer and closer and closer, at least for me, that I get to the actual audition date, the more I just feel like there's metal on metal grinding inside my emotions, and it just kind of hurts. And then to take the audition, it's always a bizarre experience. And I was
Yeah,
just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like
that's
this
fair.
isn't for me.
Right.
And I came really close in a number of auditions, but also I was only taking auditions that would be a real upgrade in my life that I would ask my
Right.
family to move for, which takes a lot
Right.
of auditions
Absolutely.
out of the equation.
Yeah, your
And
life gets to a place where certain jobs just are no longer viable.
yeah, right. I can't ask everyone to go move to some place where I would also have to work at Starbucks in order to sustain.
Yeah.
So it's just the reality of the situation. And particularly now, I've got a really good job that it would take a very, very good orchestra to balance the payout,
Hmm.
and I'm happy. And
Yeah.
so like, yeah, which it's weird to think about that in the context of freelancing and taking auditions. Like, yeah, well, I'm actually happy what I'm doing. I agree that like the thing that is tough, and I want you to talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
Like students really need to understand that this book is a starting place to teach you things because all of these things are things you should almost be able to just come up with on your own to solve your own problems. Because any teacher-student relationship is, if it's a good one, it's the teacher making themselves not needed, right? So the
Yeah.
student has all
Right.
that
The
information
teacher
and
absolutely
can
teach
can do it.
themselves.
Like they should be able to predict what the teacher's going to say,
Right.
and they should be able to do those things. And that's sort of the mindset that it should go. When I ask a student, like, what does Ben Marcato mean? And they say, I don't know. And I said, well, you have a device in your pocket. It would take you literally 10 seconds to figure this
I still
out.
have my dictionary of musical terms downstairs if anyone
Well, yeah,
needs it.
but like when we were kids,
That's what I mean. Yeah.
yeah, you had to look it up. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, not anymore. Like, but I still don't think that actually helps people know stuff.
No, it's the same roadblocks. I mean, even with this book, it's amazing. I'll have students come in with something prepared, and I'll be like, I'll tell them something that's in the book, and they'll look at me like they've never heard it before. It's like, did you read the text? And it's amazing how many, like, I mean, I guess it's the same mentality. It's like you get a new video game, you don't sit there and read the instructions, you go in and play. So people see the music and the musical examples that kind of fly right towards it. But people that have used the book for extended periods of time still don't see it all.
It is interesting to think about like how to motivate somebody to dig in on that level. I remember being so hungry for that if
Mm,
somebody would have handed me something like this,
right,
I would have glowed in my hands. I would have been such a magical
right.
treat. Talk to me a little bit about, I mean, we played together a few months ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember. What mouthpiece and reed are you playing on right now?
Ooh. I currently play on, I've been playing for the last little bit on a Jim Cantor mouthpiece. It is an HS facing on his E2 blank with his CHR material. So he has about 8 facings, 2 materials, and 2 blanks. So I've spent a lot of time kind of whittling my way towards that.
Is that one of his old mouthpieces or one of the new Shedville mouthpieces that has his name?
It's not one. So he has those Shedville mouthpieces. I don't know anything about. They're being
Okay.
marketed, and he has his old facing system, which I think is ABD. He has 3 different options, maybe an A plus as well, or an AA maybe. And then he has a newer line that has 4 facings that he believes are stronger facings, and that the folks preferring the older facings are people that played his mouthpieces before the new facings existed. And I found some truth to that, but maybe not across the board.
So I mean, just to fill in, who Jim Cantor is. Jim Cantor is a very famous in the studio world clarinet player from Los Angeles that for many, many years was the number one call studio player in Los Angeles. He played in the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra. Everybody has heard Jim Cantor play.
Right, right.
Because you don't know it, but
You
you've
don't
heard him
know it,
play.
but yeah,
Yeah, and he was famous for making mouthpieces,
yeah,
but famous in a way that I love somebody being famous, right?
right.
Which is
Couldn't get him.
famous. He's famous. Like if you can get a Jim Cantor mouthpiece, yeah,
Well, I
then
mean, yeah, when I went to study with David Schifrin, I mean, oh, he has this Cantor mouthpiece. I would like go on eBay and try to find a Cantor
yeah,
mouthpiece.
yeah, but yeah, you literally couldn't get one, and there was times when he would just not make any.
Well, I mean, I don't know if this is fortunate or not, but apparently what he told me was he was an avid golfer, and he got an injury, and he wasn't able to continue playing golf, so might as well scrape some rubber again. Lucky for us.
I saw him in Ireland at the Clarinet convention.
Mm,
I didn't make any direct contact with him just because, back when I was in LA, like he struck me as a
Oh,
terrifying figure. Like I've never spoken to him, and he has done nothing to terrify me.
right, right,
But
right.
people spoke of him as if his
Right.
name was always in all capitals, and he was just the king.
Sure.
And so like I was always afraid of him in a
Yep.
way that was out of respect, not
Hmm.
because he did anything wrong. He's probably the nicest person in the world. But
Very sweet.
the mouthpieces were definitely lore at that point
Yeah.
because some people
Yeah.
had them, but you couldn't just like say, "Hey Jim, can you make me a mouthpiece?" Because the answer oftentimes wasn't yes
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
And this will tell you about it. For me, like I haven't played one of those mouthpieces since 1994, but I still remember the magical sort of balance in the mouthpiece and the
Yep.
amount of the like it had the perfect amount of resistance that was
Hmm.
both cooperative and comfortable that you could push that wouldn't spread. And like it was one of those things where like if every day could feel like that 3.5 minutes that I played that cantor mouthpiece, I'd have no problems in my life except for this broken foot. But
Yeah, until 5 minutes later when, oh, that's fixed. Now I notice this. Yeah.
talking about mouthpieces, I would love to get your idea about this, which again, I probably should have given you a list of things I was going to ask you, but I didn't even think of any of these things. How is it that you deal with that sort of very, very sort of traditional clarinet problem? You get a mouthpiece and you think, all my problems are solved. And then a week later, you've got all the same problems back and you're playing a new mouthpiece. How do you navigate that?
Well, it's just experience. You just get kind of beaten into submission. I have students, I'll be like, oh, they want a new mouthpiece. I'll bring them all these mouthpieces that I have. So go through them and see what they like. And I'll ask them, why do you think I have this many mouthpieces? And it's amazing how no one gives me the correct answer. Like they think I'm altruistic or something. Like I bought these mouthpieces so my students would have a variety to try. I'm like, no, I've played every single one of these mouthpieces. They were all purchased for me to play, and I just kept on thinking or finding something or
Well, and every single one of them was the answer when you
yeah,
bought
one
it,
of them.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
like I've got the same thing. I've got mouthpieces everywhere.
I mean, for me, it just goes to the nature of the whole bigger picture of what we do. There is no end. You think you've figured something out, you sound better than you ever have. 2 days later, you want to sound better. And I think that this overwhelms a lot of folks, and it's an overwhelming thought to think like I can never complete this task. But I also think for myself and for those of us that stick with it for all these decades, is that that becomes what's the best thing about it. And the first time that idea was ever given to me was at the Verbier Festival in Switzerland from Mr. Ricardo Morales, who I'm unceremoniously following in your series. And thank you, Jay. And but I can remember him talking about this at these master classes and that being and him at the time. I mean, he was obviously still very young. It was probably 2002, and his thirst to be getting better and to work and practice, which I did listen to part one. I don't think part two is out yet. And it gets discussed as this just feverish desire to improve and to discover and explore, and the curiosity that's there. So I think when it comes to the mouthpieces, it's the same thing. It's like, oh, this is so great, this is so great, and then a week later, you're kind of on to chipping away at another aspect of your playing.
It's always fascinating to me, and I'd love to hear your input on this. Like to try and if I'm trying to change my sound, that's going to impact my articulation. That's going to
Sure.
impact my pitch. That's going to impact that. Like, there's no way to change one of these equations without changing another one. When I'm working with adults who are just learning how to play the clarinet, like, okay, we can get a good sound. We get to the point where, okay, adults, I feel I can make a pretty good sound on a lot of registers, on a lot of notes in a couple different
Okay.
registers
Right.
pretty quickly. But then when you add the idea of tonguing and all of a sudden, if that doesn't align with how they're already playing, a whole bunch of new challenges come in. And how do you align the articulation and tonguing with the tone and make those match up? And when I help people with that and I watch them sort of try and figure that out, I think, okay, I've got that same thing. It just doesn't reveal itself as obviously, right? It's not the same problem in terms of scope, but it is the same problem in terms of what's underneath it, right? Which is,
In a vacuum, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, everything, if one thing changes, then everything changes a little bit. And it's very interesting to be at a point where you're trying to refine something and change it just a little bit,
Oh yeah,
just the
it's not
smallest
even a
amount.
change. It's more that you're getting closer to the sound in your head, to the ideal that you've been striving for, whether you realized it or not.
When I'm working with students and I'm evaluating myself, I'll put myself right in here. Like I have a hard time really hearing what it is that I'm doing, even if I record myself, which is a huge
Well,
help.
yeah.
Unless I wait multiple
You have
days,
to wait. Yeah, if you wait, it helps. It helps a lot to wait. Yeah.
but because it
But you
has
don't
to,
always have that luxury for
sure,
sure.
it does need to be that I don't know it's me playing, right?
Yes.
Because if I can
Yes.
remember it's
You
me
have
and
to
what
have
I
that
meant to
level of
do,
detachment. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
if I hear myself, I know what I meant to do, and I will hear that rather
Right.
than what actually happened.
What actually came out.
Thinking about Jim Cantor and everybody who plays an instrument in Los Angeles in the studios, how quickly you get that feedback loop because you
Mm,
play. Okay, let's listen to the playback, and then you hear yourself playing the
yeah.
headphones. In that scenario, we're playing into a microphone, and then we hear it in our ears,
Right.
which is much different than how we
Yeah,
normally
you're
hear a
losing
clarinet when we're
dimensions of the
behind it.
sound. My teacher, when I studied in Europe, the great Eddie Van Oosthuizen, he used to implore me to listen to my sound in the hall while I played, rather than the sound from behind the clarinet or right in front of me. And I couldn't do it at the time. I mean, it was like a level of detachment that felt like I was almost out of control. And 20 years later, wrestling with this concept, it kind of has sunk in, and this ability to listen with a little bit more attachment. And I think, when you talk about like, a couple points to reference back to when you talk about the challenges of the audition and the process and the psychology behind it. And as you approach that day, the day of the audition, the hour in the practice room or in the warm-up room right before you go on stage and those impacts. And along these lines, I mean, it's almost as though they have to be addressed separately through studies in peak performance or, doing things away from the instrument to kind of prepare yourself for what it is you're actually trying to do.
I got as a message when I went to Manhattan School of Music was it was from a specific person, won't mention them, not a clarinet player.
Mhm.
So don't even guess. Did you do the orchestral performance degree?
I didn't do that track. No, I
Oh
did.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
because
I did their stuff. I mean, I went. Mark had me coming to the stuff that was
yeah,
earmarked for OP,
yeah.
but yeah, that wasn't
But
my
one of
thing.
the messages we got was you have to want this more than anybody else wants it.
That's impossible.
Well, not only is it impossible, I think it actually puts a lot of stress on a person.
Yeah.
The best playing that I can do is when I only care because it matters to me,
Hmm.
not that it matters to anyone else.
Hmm.
Like if I'm like, hey, check this out, and then I
Right.
play and don't care if I make a mistake,
Yeah.
my best plan will come out. If I'm thinking to myself, this moment matters to me more than any other moment, and this is like God, talk about getting in your own way. I mean,
Oh, I mean, I heard this great definition for nervousness or like performance anxiety recently. It's like there's a wall between you and a task you're capable of accomplishing, but it blocks you. And I thought that was such a clean way and like taking the emotion out of it, which I think is crucial to see this stuff as objectively as possible.
right,
Was a
yeah,
very useful metaphor. I mean, I think what you're referencing is common to the human experience. And I think that if you're not having those emotions in a setting like that or those feelings, then maybe you don't quite get it, or maybe you're just, you know, you just are built a little bit differently. But I do think, Sharon Sparrow's book, I don't know if you're familiar, it's called 6 Weeks to Finals. She's flutist in the Detroit Symphony. This book is fairly brilliant. It's not very long, and she talks about your division of time as you prepare. And she's like, most people in this endeavor are spending 90% of the time they're devoting to this practicing their instrument, like instrument in their mouth, practicing shedding. And her point was you should only spend 1/3 of your time practicing. You should spend 1/3 of your time doing mock auditions, which is playing the instrument, of course,
sure,
but not in a, self evaluatory, you're not sitting there nitpicking and stopping and, practicing as you go. And then 1/3 of your time is on the mental preparation. And, when I read this, I was like, wow, that totally nails what I do. I sit and I just practice over and over again. And I really try to just drill and prove to myself, I can play this passage 5 times in a row without missing. And so now I've built the trust to be able to do it. But then you get into the moment, you're in that cattle call room, you're walking out onto stage, and really being able to visualize those moments and the time it takes to really prepare yourself mentally to do that it was a very eye-opening breakdown of my time to read. And of course, at the time, I didn't think it was realistic, but 10 years after reading the book, it resonates with me.
Like if you're doing a mock audition, you're practicing an outcome-based thing. Like, I want to have this outcome. I'm going to play this. And you're not thinking backwards of what happened.
But not outcome in terms of results. We're talking outcome in terms of what you want it to sound like,
yes.
Which is an important.
Yeah, an important. Yes,
yeah.
That's a very important distinction. Thank you.
Yeah.
But like when we're practicing, we're always kind of thinking about, oh, what just happened, rather than, I mean, not that that's all we're thinking about, but we're evaluating as we're playing.
Well, that's a loaded word too. Evaluating. I mean, evaluation is a left-brained activity, and creation is a right-brained activity. So if you are really creating, you actually can't evaluate. And if you are evaluating yourself, you are not purely creating. And I think that I don't think any of us can listen to ourselves without any level of evaluation, but I think that understanding is helpful.
I think so. I think that's actually very concisely said. I don't think I've ever said anything so smart in so few words. Well done. That was part of the problem with auditioning, was it's not the same experience as playing it over and over, or your second try or third try or fourth try when you're practicing. Those are irrelevant to the audition, right? It's what happened on the first time.
Irrelevant.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in that room, you're hearing someone knock the crap out of the excerpt. You don't know what they're going to do on stage. You don't know if they have that follow through, but you think they do because they're not you.
Yeah, right. Andy Labey always used to say, like, I'm going to take a door to my audition, because if when you hear someone through the door, they always sound really great.
Yeah. It's a nice little filter.
That's really, really hard to get away from. I mean, and
for sure,
the community.
That is mental strength. Like, I mean, it's just real mental strength to be able to withstand that.
I'm a bit of a delicate flower to be in a community.
I don't think that's it. I mean, I think part of it is the educate. It's a research field.
Could you encapsulate, like, it doesn't really necessarily have to be like the 3 most important things about taking an audition when it comes to preparing the music, but what are some things that in preparing these books that you would say came back over and over and over, some ideas that we can take away as general ideas, and to highlight what's in the book that are things that popped up in multiple excerpts, or ideas that would take us in our preparation that would be a through line. Does that question even make sense?
It does. I mean, it's always hard for me to pinpoint one thing. I mean, my kids are always asking me, "What's my favorite this? What's the one thing?" It's like I can't do it. I can't pick out one thing. I mean, I think for me, it's a lot of the phrasing cues. As I just need to look at a page of the book to kind of jog forth, because there's so much similarity. So I opened up to the second movement of Mozart, the audition part, and it's so hard to teach phrasing. It's so hard to, and especially without interacting with a player, to demonstrate or to sing for them. And I think that the variety of markings, from using the numbering system, Philadelphia system of numbering phrases, from the dashed slurs to the lift markings you referenced, and accompanied by some maybe light instruction verbally or references within the text. I think that's what's probably hardest to communicate through this medium, and I think it's kind of worked, and it's working for other instrumentalists. With the violin book out, we got a couple flute books coming soon, and it seems to kind of hold.
One of the things that I thought was really interesting as I looked at the music and I looked at the suggestions, I thought a lot about, I hear that in recordings that I never could actually say what it was.
What it was.
But I heard this phrasing.
Hmm.
this is the way. I mean, like, particularly with like the Mozart concerto, there's ways in which people tend to play that, right? And there's probably less differentiation in that than a lot of the things that we play. Although it's still at the same time super revealing, right? It's that's a weird.
Right. Well, that's the subtlety, and you have to, yeah, you have
Yeah.
to be seeing it.
I was thinking of one particular passage, like very close to the end of the exposition where it goes up to that high C, oh, like
Hmm.
four times, I think, 3 or 4 times.
Hmm.
And you studied with Wenzel Fuchs, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did.
yeah. I remember hearing him talk about it, and I
Hmm.
remember him playing it at the Denver Clarinet conference,
Okay.
and then I was like, aha. Aha! There it
Right.
is. There it is.
Putting it together.
Ben just wrote that down. It's very nice.
Oh,
Which isn't to say that like you just took his ideas and wrote them down, but I could make the connection of this point to that point to that point to that point, but then also have an awakening in me of being able to see and hear and experience and talk about
right.
this music much more specifically. So that's the part of it that really was striking to me. I really care about teaching. I care about how I say things. I care
Yeah.
about all this stuff, and I know you do too. And I'm not trying to say I think I'm better than everybody else, but I kind of do. And reading your book, I was like, this is better than me. I'm glad I know this person and I'm friends with this person. It makes it much easier for me to deal with. To talk about that jealousy thing of like, I go, no, I'm not jealous. I'm willing to say like, I'm glad I have these books so that I can say these things and pretend it's my idea. Really.
Well, well, I mean, which is great. Yeah, own it. Absolutely. And I mean I mean, Mark had his own set of motivations for why he wanted to devote to these books so much. And one of them was for the teachers out there. All the teachers teaching other players to take an audition or to learn these excerpts, and how elusive it is to put your finger on this knowledge. And it's funny. You talk about being able to convey these concepts that are so hard to put words to. And I remember when I was becoming very serious as a young student and getting noticed a little bit more and being asked to come to more concerts. What disarmed me most was being asked to say something intelligent about the music I had heard and feeling as though I had the words to do so. And in David McGill's genius book, Sound and Motion,
A good one.
um,
Yeah.
he talks about he says writing about music is like dancing about architecture. Like, how would I dance to show what this room is? How can I write and talk about what I'm hearing and what the transcendent nature of music? And yeah, so it's an elusive thing to be able to put this into words.
And that book is, for me, it is absolutely in the top three
Oh, it's
non-clarinet
pure gold. Every
clarinet book.
word you read, everything you read is just like, oh yeah. I mean, whether you kind of felt it or knew it, and like just to see it as the chapter on wind playing techniques. Like, I mean, I do things that he's a bassoonist for crying out loud, and I do things written in that chapter when I play the clarinet,
Yeah.
and they work.
Well, I mean, everything about it is
Yeah.
amazing. I talk about it all the time, but this book that Molly Gebrian wrote, Learn Faster, Perform Better.
Put it in the show notes, Jay. I want to read that.
Don't listen. If you listen to all my podcasts, you would have heard all about it.
Uh,
Check it out. There's 2 episodes with her, and
okay.
it's amazing. And yeah, and use my link. It's an affiliate link. I'll make 35 cents, and it won't
Nice.
cost you any extra money.
That's right.
Yeah.
I didn't know where to click.
But like, yeah, I mean, like those 2 books, and like Song and Wind, I would put those 3 books
Mm,
as not clarinet specific, but
right.
all super formative in what I do
What
and
you
what I
do.
think.
Yeah.
Molly's book, it resonated so much with the things I already thought and I already said
Right.
that
Right.
like I feel like I will start talking with words from that book as if
Sure.
they're mine very organically.
Right.
Which and
There's
I
no
feel
difference in that, like taking something your teacher told you 15 years ago, and now you
right.
just say it and don't. I mean, I remember my teachers back then being like, "Oh, you won't remember who told you what when you're doing this," and I didn't
Yeah.
understand that at the time.
Isn't that the truth? And I think that there's something about that that's clarinet specific and life specific, right? Is that there's
Oh,
parts of us that are who we are as people and as musicians, and it came from somewhere and somewhere
yeah,
powerful. I got no idea where a lot of it came from. I can get times of my life and periods of my life. I can kind of get it down to something, but I can't really quite figure it out. I know because of the magic of social media that there's flute books on the way. Are they
yeah,
on the way or are they out already?
they are on the way. They apparently, I don't know. Publishing's an interesting business, tends to move at its own pace. Going to print on April 23rd means the book will be physically available in June, apparently.
Okay.
But then I for a couple reasons wanted the book known right now. I'm rebuilding my website that should be released probably right before this podcast is out. So check it out,
Yeah.
benjaminbarron.com.
No, that will be in the show notes for sure.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
No. Am
So
I
there was
just
that. There was something else. So I reached out to the publisher and I said, "Can we get they have a page on their website for all the books?" And it's kind of like, "Can you generate the pages so we can get a little buzz going about the books before they come out to boost sales?" And they'd already done it. It was already sitting there, pre-sale. So,
nice?
yeah.
Nice. And so you're playing bigger organizational role that I don't really quite understand. Is that something you want to share, or do you
Oh
not want to
no, it's fine. We've been writing these flute books since 2016,
Okay.
and this was originally going to be one book, but Joshua put so much into them that all of a sudden I got the final draft. I was like, this is two books. Like we can't put out a 200-page book. Like
Right.
it's just like it's too much. And so it's great. It took 8+ years, but we have 2 volumes now. My role is kind of everywhere. I'm the primary point person with the publisher. Um, we have to show how to write these books, and these are all very accomplished artists in their own right with their own fully formed concepts and approaches. And basically, the idea as we branch out to a series is you use the model of the book with your own content, so to speak.
Right.
And I think early on, I mean, I can remember Mark's reaction to this when I said it. I didn't fully understand it at the time because he didn't say I was wrong. But when we started branching out the books, like, oh yeah, I'll do like I did for I'll like read everything, I'll help them, I'll do all this. And Mark kind of looked at me like, I don't think you're being very realistic. He didn't say it, but that was the look on his face. And it's just too much. And with Joshua's books, I feel a little badly. In 2017, I played the opera festival with the American Symphony Orchestra, and I was playing the bass clarinet, and I'm terrible remembering what pieces are what, but the bass clarinet was very minimal in the opera, which was great. It was like a 4.5 opera. My part was in the first act. I was home from upstate New York before the opera finished, so that was fun to text people, when I got home that they were still sitting in the pit. But what this meant was, I'm sure some folks are familiar with the American Symphony and their music director Leon Botstein, which means you don't know what's coming next. So while we may have finished Act One, I can't wander too far. They might come back. And so I was sitting out in the hall listening to a lot of these rehearsals and just started opening up and helping Joshua with the editing and kind of working his texts out a little bit. And what has happened is there is not time to do that for all the artists, even one of them. And so I've written out like a kind of a how-to guide to kind of create your own volumes, but it's a lot. I mean, we have to have the artist, we have to be on a time frame. We need an engraver. Now that I know you do Sibelius, maybe we got another engraver.
Yeah. Well, listen, I saw John Romeri's name as the engraver, and I was like, nice.
Yeah.
Because like I'm not that good. I'm good enough to make
he's great. He's
yeah.
great.
I can make really nice things for my own thing, but it's not professional. It's not professional. It's professional. It's professional-ish.
Yeah, and this is a tricky engraving project. We have had a few engravers. Like we send them the book. We say, "Can you do this? This is the process," and they say yes. And then it turns out either they can't, or for them to do it, it's just flat out too time-consuming. And
well, when I see what's in your book and looking at it through the eyes of somebody who makes music on Sibelius, I look at it and I think, well, number one, first, let me say, because no one said it, these books are incredibly well put together on high quality paper. They feel nice. They're a joy to just interact with physically. And that's not even getting to the content of it, but the content of it is so well done. The instructions are in a blue that's very easy to read, that references back to the text. And it's all like if one is looking for something that is written in the text, you can easily find it in the music. Like that sort of going through the process is very, very user friendly, which is really nice because these books have a lot in them, right? There's a tremendous amount of information that's all great, But when you're trying to sort through it and go from the text part to actually reading the music part, that you guys did it in a way that made it so that it's very, very functional.
I mean, so yeah.
Because that could be a disaster.
Oh, for sure.
And if you want it to be a disaster, I'm happy to be your engraver. I'll do it for twice the price, but half as good.
Yeah. Take twice as long. Yeah.
but yeah, no, somebody would have to be very, very skilled at what they're doing to make that layout on
No,
the page,
it's
right?
elaborate. The proofreading is incessant. I mean to make sure everything's coordinated right. Page. I mean it's just kind of an endless process. And eventually you just have to send the book in to be printed because you can sit and tweak all day. Yeah, I mean it's a good opportunity to give a lot of credit to GIA publications, both for the quality of books you're putting out. I mean that stuff matters, right?
Yeah, it does.
Opening the book and it's easy, you can see it. I mean, it's deliberately 9 by 13, not just so you can't copy it easily. And the other thing that GIA has done is, they financially support us. They print the books and they send it to readers. And so for both volumes, we've sent this book out to 20 prominent people in the field. And some of them, skim it, say something nice, maybe write a testimonial, but we're always sure to have like 2 to 3 people that will read every word and will like play through every excerpt and do that. And on volume 2, we had so much great feedback, and it seemed like some people focused on one aspect of the book and other people in other places. But it's a necessary component to produce something that I think the quality stands up to scrutiny over the long period, and that's the system that's in place, that less than the work that went into creating it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's daunting. I think it must be. I'm just imagining what it feels like to be like, okay, it's ready.
Ooh, I mean, it's so slow at the end, Jay. Like there are so many little steps at the end of the process that, like, from making sure the foreword is ready to go to putting the glossary, all the markings in the right place, that it's like by the time it's there. But there is still that feeling. Yeah, we don't find a lot of mistakes, but it's impossible to dig at all of them.
So, well, here's the other thing I wanted to ask you. I was very aware of your recent performance of the Copland Concerto and was unable to attend. And I just want you to know that I wanted to go and I could not go. I was excited for you that you were doing it, and I very much wanted to go. I can't remember what I was doing, but this was in the past couple months, right?
Yeah, it was February.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a Friday night. People got things going on.
How did it go?
Oh, it was great. It was a really meaningful experience. That piece is so much, and I have to be like really honest. Like, I mean, I learned it as a student, and it's always a piece I wanted to revisit and kind of feel like I had really wrapped my head around. And it's just so much to do it. Even like through teaching it, I had a student last year win with it in the concerto competition. So that was, I teach it, but to get right in there and play it, and I didn't perform it from memory. For a variety of reasons. One, the conductor asked me not to. We didn't have a lot of rehearsal time, and it's hard to put together. And it was just great to have an excuse to really digest that piece of music. It's just incredible. I mean, as we all know, all the clarinet players listening, but to have a reason to listen to every Copland recording out there, and to get the score and just have it as part of my existence over a stretch of time. I think I gave my first performance of it like last November in a very, low pressure situation, and kind of kept doing that. And it was a really great experience. I did manage, don't tell anyone, but I did manage to get an actual video out of the dress rehearsal.
Oh, great.
And so I'll share that with you if you want to take a listen.
Oh, I'd love it.
Yeah, but I can't, it's in Wiles, so it's at Carnegie. So it's like I can't share it widely, I suppose.
Again, I would love to hear it, because I definitely wanted to be there. In your listening of recordings, did you run across the almost mythical at this point recording of Bill Blount playing that with St. Luke's?
Yeah.
It's great, right?
Yeah. And I knew Bill a little bit back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a real talent.
Yeah. I mean, but by the time I knew Bill, he had a lot of life struggles, right?
Yeah.
So he wasn't the same person that played that recording. I mean, I always felt like Bill was probably the best clarinet player that
Mm,
nobody's really heard of outside of New
mm,
York, right? I
yeah.
mean, I think he should have been a legendary figure in our field.
Mm. No, he was really
Uh,
gifted for sure.
and I definitely felt like that recording the of the Copeland, which I have on a cassette somewhere
Mm,
in my house,
yeah.
um, because it went out of print. I think on the other side of the record, I think Dennis Godburn is playing the Mozart Bassoon Concerto. I
Oh,
think on this
okay.
record that's
Rings a
long
bell.
since out of print. That is unfortunate because, like to me, that's actually probably my favorite recording of
Mm,
the Coppola Concerto, and
yeah.
it's almost like not findable, as far as
Mm,
I know, which is weird in this day and age to have something not findable.
yeah, to have something you can't track down. Yeah.
which is strange, but that's also honestly like I'm going to keep talking about your books because this stuff that's in your books isn't really findable anywhere else.
Mm,
Like this stuff is so good. Why didn't we have this before? Right? Like because this is so good. Yeah, this should have been done before.
mm,
Right? And the fact that it wasn't means a couple things. It means that it was really hard to do, right?
yeah, yeah.
Because if it was easy to do, it would have been done. The only place to find this is in these books. And oh, and here's the other thing I wanted to say. I love music. This is such an old guy talking. I love music that is printed on real size music paper because
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
I can't see it.
Yep.
I'm old and I can't see the music when it's on 8.5 by 11 paper or it's on an
Hmm.
iPad. Like I'm just like iPad's better, but I just that's when I really recognize I'm not a kid anymore. Because like I think oh, those kids and their gosh darn iPads.
Yeah.
Like, it's
It's nice
I
to have your whole library with you. I will say that. But
you
yeah,
know no,
the
that
act
is
of
nice.
reading it. Yeah.
And there are times when like I'm sitting here, I'm looking at a screen. I will put the music on the screen and practice a little further back.
Right.
But yeah, no, it is nice to have real size music like
Well,
that.
I
That
have to say, I mean, hearing this feed, I mean, these books are, I mean, they're just a labor of love for Mark and I. They take so much time to produce, and hearing feedback like this from someone such as yourself. I got feedback last summer. One of the readers of the book, I don't know if people want their names mentioned, but a very prominent player was playing Tchaik 6 last summer, and he said he was using the book to prepare for it, and like it just felt so good. It was like we spent so much time on that excerpt. Tchaik, like you asked me about, like I didn't know where you were going with which excerpt epitomizes this or epitomizes that,
yeah.
and Tchaik 6 is in my head. I mean, that thing took so long to finish and to examine and to do all the excerpts in there. Scheherazade was similar, but I don't know, something about the Tchaikovsky that was just a big pill to swallow. And so hearing that feedback from people at the top of the field that are finding use out of it, it's just it really just means so much.
I want to piggyback on that idea, but I also before I do that, I just want to say the you mentioned Scheherazade. All of a sudden, it triggers me very vividly to remember what you wrote in that book on how to play it, but then how to practice it. That was really, really
Mm.
that was terrific, really terrific. And one of the things that like I always get lost in those. I'm always
Yeah,
like I'm
of
always
course.
like
How many have
spinning
I
out of
done?
control. There seems to be a weird tradition where people just play that as fast as they can, which I don't think is
Right,
great.
which isn't what's going on. Yeah,
Yeah. But then the other one, with the two triplets, like reading why that's on a list.
right.
Right, because
It's
like you
important to
talked
know.
about what's going to make you stand out when you play this,
Hmm.
and I think that that's one of the things that we talk about with a lot of the excerpts. Why is this on a list?
Right.
But then there's a lot of excerpts that aren't so much there's a real reason why they're on the list, but then the question becomes, what's going to set you apart when you play this one? Right? It's
Hmm.
not so much that this one's the tonguing one or this
Hmm.
one's the
Right. It's
the
not
counting one.
obvious. Right.
Right? Yeah, like
Right.
but here's what you're going to do in order to not sound like everybody else.
Right.
And I think that that's something that is really important. Pairing a book of this like stature, this is really high level stuff with a teacher, and it could be
Yeah.
there's lots of teachers that can
Right.
do it. I'm not to say okay, here's the idea of how you're going to stand out, but then most people are still not going to do it. They're still not going to stand out. They're
For
going to
sure.
think that they're going to do it. And I listen, I'm not, me too, right? Where like I think I'm doing the thing, but then I'm not actually doing the thing. And so I have a teacher say, yeah, okay, so that's when you're doing the thing. That thing you just did, that's the thing, right? To be able to have
Yes.
that sort of full circle.
You
where
can't learn music from a book.
well, you can't, you can't learn music from a
This is
book.
fact.
But I do think that the discovery process of seeing it in a book, interfacing with it on your own terms, that isn't your teacher's idea. It's a different way of internalizing something and having access to it. You know, when I started making YouTube videos, it was really just for my students during the pandemic. Then I realized I like making videos, I like the recording, I like the editing, I like all this stuff. But then the problem was the challenge.
Didn't you have like a short comedy career in there? Didn't you have like a brief stint in there?
Well, that wasn't part. That wasn't part of my YouTube channel, but yeah. But you know, I'm an open mic
You're
veteran.
designed for this.
Yeah. So the thing was then, okay, so you're going to make a video about reeds. Who's this video for? Right? Is it for people who are just opening a reed case for their very first time in their life? Or is this for people that know about reeds? Like, who is this for? Because there's so much.
Who's watching?
Right. And it could be anybody. Your audience is unknown. And that's the part about these books. You have an advantage over my situation in that this is for people who are looking to take professional auditions.
Well, you know, it's funny with these. I mean, I think they work for anyone. I mean, of course I do, right? But for anyone taking an audition, I think if you're a high school kid auditioning for a youth orchestra, you got to play Beethoven and Shostakovich, like this is a resource. And if you're taking a college placement audition or
I agree, but I want to highlight one thing in that this is written for people taking a professional audition, which isn't to say other people can't get something from it. And I think one of the main things, you know, if you're talking about a high school kid or someone trying to get into college, one of the things that really comes from this book are what things should you think about, just in general, about playing the clarinet or about music, right? Because you're talking about them in the way that we talk about them as professional musicians. And so to have that idea of just experiencing somebody talking to these situations the way that we do, all of a sudden that gives a point of entry that's super, super helpful for someone that's in that position.
Absolutely.
I love the idea that while the target audience in essence is small, the audience that would benefit from it is huge, which wouldn't be the case if this weren't so well done, right? This could be just for the 150 people taking auditions at any given point in time, but it's not. It's actually for everybody. It's so good at objective number one that it allows all sorts of other things to be relevant, all sorts of other people's experiences to be relevant to it and can learn from it. If somebody were to never even play in an orchestra and just be interested in playing the clarinet and never play Beethoven 6, they can study it of just that one part and then have a completely different experience listening to the rest of the piece, listening to how these themes and ideas come back in other instruments at other times. And so like actually just listening to Beethoven 6 becomes a much different thing because you've educated yourself through this point of entry, which is the clarinet part, and specifically these excerpts. So I mean, I think even somebody who just plays the clarinet once a month could really find if they're interested in classical music, a lot of really relevant things in these books. I'm still stand by my idea that you'll never find me in another audition, but I still will look at these for inspiration to practice other things. It helps organize my mind, right? Like there's a very calming feeling when I read it and when I look at it because everything is so organized. The chaos of
the chaos settles a little.
All right, Ben, thank you so much for being here, and I'm going to leave all the information about you, about your books in the show notes, in the description, so everybody can get all of the Ben Barron they could possibly want.
Oh, well, there might be a cap to that pretty early, but but I appreciate this, Jay. It's really great to sit down and talk with you, and I appreciate all your kind words and how thoroughly you've looked at the books, and it's just great to hear of someone, you know, of your caliber that's really benefiting from what's inside of them.
Well, I mean, listen, I benefit twice because I benefit from the work that you did and reading these books now. But let's be honest, I probably made a couple $1,000 subbing for you when you were writing for these books. So I got paid on the front end and I get the benefit on the back end. It's amazing.
Yeah. You've situated well.
All right, man. I'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Jay.
All right. So there you have it. some incredible information from a real expert. I can't tell you, I mean, everything I said there, I was gushing about this book because it is that great. So go ahead and check it out. There's links for everything we talked about during this episode in the show notes, in the description. Please, and if you haven't, tell me which excerpt is your favorite. Tell me which excerpt is your least favorite. Thank you for being here. Please tell the world. I want everyone to know about the Clarinet Ninja podcast if they like the clarinet. I believe these conversations are going to be fun for everybody.